listening to the Art of Homeschooling podcast, where we help parents cultivate creativity and connection at home. I'm your host, Jean Miller, and here on this podcast, you'll find stories and inspiration to bring you the confidence you need to make homeschooling work for your family. Let's begin. Years ago at a workshop, someone handed me a piece of paper with a handwritten passage entitled Faithfulness by Rudolf Steiner. And this has become my go-to read whenever I experience conflict with a loved one in my life. I'm sharing this with you today in case it helps you deal with differences of opinion in your own life, because it happens to most of us at some point or another, maybe all of us. People we love and care about may not always see things our way. This passage is a beautiful reminder to me to take the high road, to see the best in each other. As I said, it's written by Rudolf Steiner, but I don't really know where it came from. I'm not sure what lecture or book it's from. If you know, please share with me. I'd love to hear. So here it is, Faithfulness by Rudolf Steiner. Create for yourself a new indomitable perception of faithfulness. What is usually called faithfulness passes so quickly. Let this be your new faithfulness. You will experience moments, fleeting moments, with the other person. The human being will appear to you then as if filled, irradiated with a spirit archetype. And then there may be, indeed will be, other moments, long periods of time when human beings are darkened. But you will learn to say to yourself at such times, the spirit makes me strong. I remember the archetype. I saw it once. No illusion, no deception shall rob me of it. Always struggle for the image that you saw. This struggle is faithfulness. Striving thus for faithfulness, we shall be close to one another, as if endowed with the protective power of angels. Oh, so beautiful and so poignant to me and helpful when we are experiencing any kind of struggle with another person. I know conflict can be hard, especially with someone we care deeply about. And today I want to talk specifically about how to handle a situation when a friend or a loved one disagrees with our decision to homeschool. Sometimes we feel hurt or offended and might even feel a need to try to convince others that we're right, that homeschooling is a good choice. Because for some reason, our brains think it's dangerous when someone disagrees with us. Most of us have encountered family, friends, loved ones who don't understand why we're homeschooling. Perhaps we have parents or siblings who are even classroom teachers. They might strongly disagree with our decision to homeschool. And sometimes these loved ones are really vocal about their opinions, or even decide to try to test our children to see how they're doing to prove their point. I totally get the feelings of hurt and discouragement that come along with this. I've been there. My parents weren't at all familiar with homeschooling and thought I was crazy to even consider it. This was mostly expressed in their concerns that our kids would never be able to go to college if they were homeschooled. And while I wanted to change their minds at first, to talk them into seeing things my way, I came to realize that was not helping the situation at all. In fact, it usually made it worse. The truth is that we cannot change another person's mind, and we cannot control what other people think. Gosh darn it, I sure wish we could control others, but accepting that we can't is actually a huge relief. So whether your family or loved ones think that homeschoolers are weird and unsocialized or won't learn all their math facts if they play outside too much, or will never get into college like my family thought, it doesn't really matter what they think. It's time to let that all go. Here are 3 suggestions for how to deal with the challenging feelings that come up in these situations, how you can better take care of yourself and handle the situation when it comes up. So my first suggestion is to realize that the best we can do for ourselves is to believe in what we're doing. It's not our job to convince anyone else. They don't have to agree with us or even see it the same way. When we feel others' judgment, we can just smile and say, "We've got this, thanks." If we take on their judgment, thinking it's our job to change their mind or convince them, things get more tense, not less. Oftentimes, others' opinions tend to, they touch a spot in us that has doubts, our own doubts, right, about homeschooling. But it's really helpful to separate our work, thinking through and coming to truly believe that this is a good choice for us. That's our work, but we don't have to share that. I've found just one helpful thought to say is something like, "This is what we're doing for now," or "We're giving homeschooling a try for this year," and just leave it at that. We don't owe another person an explanation. And sometimes the best way to take care of ourselves is to keep it short and sweet. All right, my second suggestion. What other people think is actually none of our business. And that's good news because we can stop trying to change their minds. The truth is that over time, your family and friends will start to see the results of homeschooling and its benefits. Sometimes this takes years, but I've seen it happen over and over again, even in my family. Homeschooled children learn in so many interesting and varied settings. They can talk to and engage with people of all ages. They're curious about the world and how things work. They have space to get to know themselves. Some colleges even seek out homeschooled applicants. One college admissions counselor told me that he loved homeschooled students because they have such great critical thinking skills. They tend to think outside the box and socialize well with all ages. And my third suggestion, here's what I want you to think about and consider. So really, our work is to let go of believing differences of opinion are a problem. Just allow others to have their judgments and embrace the differences of opinion. We want to love our family and friends as best we can, judgments and all. That doesn't mean that we have to let them treat us or our children badly. We can just let it be. As we wrap up, I want to mention a recent article I read in Forbes magazine about how opinions on homeschooling changed during the pandemic. The article is about a series of monthly surveys that EdChoice did during the pandemic. And what they found was that parents became more favorable of homeschooling as the pandemic wore on. They also found that homeschooling parents were more satisfied with their children's learning than other parents during the pandemic. Just a little food for thought for you today. More and more, homeschooling is being seen as a viable educational option. I'll be sure to put a link to this article. It's called Opinions on Homeschooling Have Changed During the Pandemic by Mike McShane. I'll put a link to the article in the show notes, which you can find at artofhomeschooling.com/episode 143. Here's what I want to leave you with. In the end, when we experience differences of opinion with those we love, we can remember Steiner's description of faithfulness. That struggle to see the other person in a good light, if just for a moment. Because as Steiner says, quote, striving thus for faithfulness, we shall be close to one another, as if endowed with the protective power of angels. We can still love each other, be kind to each other, and accept each other, even when we have differences of opinion. And at the same time, we as parents get to decide the best path for educating our children. We can simply agree to disagree. You can do this. I know you can. Differences of opinion and all, and I'm over here rooting for you. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. That's all for today, my friend. But here's what I want you to remember. Rather than perfection, let's focus on connection. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Art of Homeschooling podcast.